It's a doubleheader for the women as the U20s and the senior women's national team for Canada both earned 4-1 wins on Saturday. What does it mean? Well, let's talk about it. Okay, guys, welcome back to the What Does It Mean? It's our game reaction. This time it's a double header. We're going to talk about both the U20s as well as the senior national team. Normally we would have done these in separate videos, but it just happened that everything happened on the same day. It's a little easier to break it up this way and have both there. Guys, we won't do it normally. We're going to do two separate streams. Not streams. Two separate videos for the U20s as well as the senior women's national team on their next game. So keep an eye out for that. But let's start off with the U20s. A 4-1 win over the team of Nicaragua. And with the result that Mexico had over Panama, they are now they are qualified for the women's under 20 tournament. Let's talk about the lineups and things that we saw that were interesting. We had Noelle Henning in goal. We have Ines Nurani, Janet Okiki, Stephanie Sholey, and April Latang, Juliette Perrault, Geneva Hernandez-Gray, and Tegan Mellenhorst. And then Liana Tarasco, Nicolina Estaki, and Annabelle Chukwu. Now, there were a few major moments that happened in this game. We had another goal conceded by Canada, this time off of a penalty. And refereeing was a bit of the story of the game. Ines Nurani earns a red card for a late challenge on a clear goal scoring opportunity, and thus she gets sent off. So Canada plays a large chunk of this game down a player. And I think they played well, showed some resiliency, but that did leave them open for more pushes and more opportunities from Nicaragua. I expected Canada to be a little bit more dominant in this game, so seeing Nicaragua starting to push forward and get chances was a little bit of surprising. Full disclosure, I rewatched the game afterwards, so understanding what happened in the flow of the game now is it makes a lot more sense seeing it now. But you are able to take a look and see, okay, because of how the flow of the game was going, that's why those opportunities presented there. What did we say about this game that hasn't been said already? I think Annabelle Chukwu had a solid start again. Should get credit for 2 goals, but only is going to get credit for 1, mainly because of the second one. The first goal was more of a own goal. Chukwu headed it on frame, and then afterwards the ball was headed in by a Nicaraguan defender. So that's the first goal. But then you saw her composure, you saw the footwork again, working her way through. She's a player that we used to say her touch was a little bit too heavy. It's been a joy to watch a player like her continue to improve every stage you see. Now, granted, you get to do that because you get to see her at every stage. We saw her at the U15s, then we saw her at the U17s, then we saw her at the U20 and the U17s, and now this is her second and last run with the U20s. And so it is almost like a joy that we got to see this player continue to develop and move forward. And you don't want to take it for granted. I also don't want to overlook, I mean, the U20 team isn't just Annabelle Chukwu. I think Liana Tarasco had a solid game as well. Geneva Hernandez-Gray has been quietly solid as well. And Janet Okiki and Ibo Cheng, I think, have performed and played well. They have a day off and then they play Mexico. They don't have anything to worry about because they're just going to be playing either second place. What's at stake is a chance to win the trophy, right? Tegan Mellenhorst gets a goal. Estaki playing well as well. But what Canada has to play for now is if they win their group, odds are based off how the U.S. group is going, the U.S. will win that group. What Canada and Mexico are playing for is the opportunity to avoid the U.S. until the finals. And I think I'm curious to see how Ty looks at this. The team is already qualified for the World Cup. Now it's a question of, do they take trophies with that. I would love for them to do so, but that means they'd have to beat a Mexico side. And I'm not sure how I feel. I said I wanted to see how they both played against their opponents before we said how they feel. And it's interesting because in many ways you'd see, okay, Canada struggled versus Nicaragua, so Mexico should probably have an easier time with them. But then Mexico also, though their game was played over in a rainstorm, Mexico wasn't as dominant on Panama as, say, Canada was. And so then it becomes a conversation of, okay, well, what do we see? I think it'll be interesting to see how Thai uses this. They have 2 more games guaranteed. If they can push through, possibly. I do see Thai did this before. She rotates heavily and then goes from there. Because Mexico's in this group, you can't really plan for a Mexico. So if I'm going to speculate, my speculation would be, I think she rotates a little bit more. She gives Busby a run. They're not going to have Ines Nourani just because of the red card for this game. So I have a feeling, and again, there's no insider information. I think this ends up being a rotated game, and they kind of see what they can do against Mexico. And if they're able to perform well, you still have the subs. I think it would be a perfect opportunity to give Geneva Hernandez-Gray and Annabelle Chukwu maybe a half off, put them on in the second half depending on how the flow of the game is going, and attack accordingly. That's what they have at stake, avoiding to play the U.S., who we're assuming are going to win that group, and that's where it is. Now, flipping from the U20s all the way to the senior team, the senior women's national team. They played Haiti today. They won that game also 4-1. Casey Stoney. Casey Stoney put out her starting 11 of Kaylin Sheridan, Bianca St. George's, Vanessa Gilles, Shanice Zadorsky, Gabrielle Carl, Desiree Scott in her final appearance, Marielle Du, Jessie Flemings, and Janine Sonis, with Adrienne Leon and Jordan Heinema up top. Adrienne Leon has continued her good form. 2 goals in the first 10 minutes of the game. Solid start. Janine Sonis contributes and gives assists on every goal that Canada has scored. The cross to Shalene Zadorsky comes after a brace from Adrienne Leon, and then ultimately a header from Olivia Smith. Now, the interesting thing for me is I always like to start these with acknowledging who you play. And I think Haiti is a side that we had mentioned this earlier in our preview of the idea. I think Haiti's a side is going to be a pest for Canada. Though Canada can outwork them in attack, I'm curious to see what Casey Stoney does in that second matchup in Montreal. But you definitely do see depth here. And I'm very much curious to see how she wants to play with it and how she wants to organize it. Well, Casey Stoney's not here for this camp, and so we're also thinking about the coach and their family emergency. But I'm very much curious to see what Haiti is able to do, especially since they're playing the second game in Montreal. The heavy Haitian population, this might be their best type of a home game ever, and I think they may respond to that in the same way that I think the Canadians will respond to crowd support and the like. So it'll be a very fun atmosphere to take in and watch. Desiree Scott retiring, coming off in the 11th minute of the second half. What can't we say about this player? Stalwart for the program for years, the last member of the 2012 bronze medal, still active, playing. She's now gone. And I think it's a fun conversation to look at her and say, okay, look at what they've done. And now we look at this CDM conversation, and we say, or even just a midfielder conversation. You have Simia Wujo, you have Emma Regan, you have Quinn, you technically have Jessie Fleming. That's 4 players that we've just mentioned and said, okay, these are players who can fill that role. The program has come a long way from having to really rely on Desiree Scott as a destroyer in the middle of the field. And that's a compliments to the program overall, but also looking ahead as to what they can continue to build off of. Up top, this game was a weird game, rewatching it. I saw the comments and I asked, and I understand it. After Adrian Ellis scored 2, it felt as if everyone was trying to get their goal. And I was wondering, like, okay, they're trying to get a goal. Are they overpassing or are they just shooting everywhere? They were selfish. Passion, passing. They were a little bit too selfish at times, where there's another opportunity to move the ball around. And so that's going to happen. But I think, like I said earlier, I think playing Haiti in Montreal is going to be a very different experience than what we're typically used to, because I think the Haitian fans will come out. If they do that, this might be, for a lot of Haitian Canadians, one of their few opportunities to see one of the top young players, Melchie Duvernay, Corventina's nickname we give to her. I think when she got on the ball, she was able to create. Canada was definitely doing their best to limit her space and limit the action around her so that she couldn't turn and move and be their creative self. But they also conceded a goal, Canada did, off of a set piece that was saved, and that's both on the players defending but also the goalkeeper as well. I think it's something to keep in mind. I think I walked into this thinking I don't think Canada's going to win both games. Now, they very well may, but I feel like if this was a tournament, a 4-point window would be acceptable, and I think that's how I'm looking at it here. Well, guys, we've run through rather quickly the women's U20 qualified for Poland 26, and then also the women's senior national team for Canada playing a friendly and honoring Desiree Scott. Let me know what your favorite Desiree Scott moment is at the end and what you thought of both teams. I think the kids are all right. And as always, I'm going to stop talking right here.